Oh, we started recording.
I feel like it's bright on my side. I don't know.
No, you look
You know what,
fabulous.
Nathy?
Hey,
You look.
thank you.
You took the words. You are bright and fabulous. XOX.
Wonderful.
You got that glow on you, girl.
That's because I don't look my age. I hope I don't look my age.
I don't think any of us do. I don't think any of us do. I don't. Again, I've said this before, I believe, or it's said enough to me, and maybe I sound a little cocky about it. Fuck it, I don't care. We don't look our age. We don't look like what I thought a 40-year-old would look like. And I had this conversation actually when I was in Mexico, that there's pictures and videos of people back in when we were younger who were pictured at 40, and they look dragged. They look rough. And, I don't know. I think we've reinvented ourselves. Our generation with is the better one. What do you guys think? Silence, crickets.
So too, Betsy. If you even look at the pictures of our parents, our age, they look older. Some of them. Well, back in
my mom.
Well, back in the 80s, they had like the poofy hair and all the padding in the shoulders and the stockings and all these other things that made them look what I call doñas.
Yes, I agree. I agree on that. I sent this article to my friends because I don't know why so my friends and I have kind of gone on these 40-year birthday parties trips this year /37. And we were talking about that, and it was like, don't you remember, like, why do you think everyone, was it because we were young and naive and we just thought everyone just looked old? Or is it that they really did look old, and now that we're almost 40, well, I'm closer to 40 than you ladies are. Do they really look old? And it actually did. It said that the people back then smoked a lot more. Life was a little more, like you said, the hairstyle, the way their clothing was set up. And I don't think there was a lot of emphasis on self-care. Or mental health care or physical care. I think that also ages you. So, as the sun comes in, look at that glow.
I'm sure that if we were to do a perm on our hair, we wore paddings in our shoulders, we'd look older. It's like a square.
A square.
And
what I'm doing right now.
I like that. I remember my mom wearing this huge bow in her hair for my brother's baptism, and she had the padding in here, and she looked nice. But I think with different generations, things change, right? And I think in the future we might see that come back, right?
Because bell bottoms are back,
right? Yeah. So just like how things change, with the styles that we see, and I don't know, with movies, I think, we kind of have to tweak ourselves in a sense, and like, not that we're not the same person, but we're just making changes in ourselves for the better. Kind of like we're reinventing ourselves, right? As we get older.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could we say that this episode is about anything, everything, and all things reinvention?
Yeah, I can say it. I
think I'm almost 40 now, so there's enough evidence in our life to say, as we've aged in every decade, how have we reinvented ourselves? How have we changed? What has been different? What has been the same? Right? I'm sorry, I have to blow my nose. What are you guys? Take the floor.
Well, while Billy blows her nose,
make sure you mute yourself.
Reinvention mean? Betsy, while she blows her nose, what does reinvention mean to you personally?
For me, I don't. I like to use glow up because I don't know. I don't know if I love the word reinvention, but I haven't decided that. So I'll decide that by the end of the episode. I think for me, reinvention is taking yourself and evolving yourself to be a better, newer version of who you are. or in who you're meant to be. It isn't about changing every aspect of who you are. And sometimes with the word reinvention, people can get stuck with, oh, I need to change every single aspect of me. And then they lose who they are. And I'm going to sidestep to say that that doesn't mean that in the process of evolving, you don't lose a sense of who you are. It's just a sense of who you were, because you're no longer the wild, potentially teenager like I was, or I had anger issues, and I know I'm a lot calmer than what I used to be. I'm just a better version of who I am. And so reinvention to me sometimes can get kind of hazy in the sense of changing every aspect of who you are. And I don't think I've changed who I am to my core. I know that there's certain pieces that as I have evolved, that I kind of look back and I lose this. I feel a little lost, because I'm like, well, who am I now? And it's more of just trying to figure out where I am in life. So it sounds a little contradictory, but it's just more of like, I don't want to change everything about me, but I also want to make sure that I'm staying true to who I am. I just realized what I was trying to say. So it's when you start to feel lost, it's because you're not comfortable in the new you. And so until you feel comfortable in the new you and the things that you're not used to doing, you kind of start to feel a little lost in that. So for me, reinvention is finding things that, you want to adapt to yourself that is better for you. One of my biggest thing was, and I've talked about it a lot, is working out. I've always tried on and off to work out for years. I used to run track in high school. I stopped it because I started to work. And then I did not start working out again until maybe like 15 years later. So that's not great. Um, and so I never kept that routine. And I feel like the past year and a half, I've been very dedicated to myself in working out and in finding a studio that I like to work out, as well as actually working out at a studio dedicated for the last year. But I've been doing yoga. Billy, we started before COVID, right? It's 2018, I think. So yoga was my thing, where Billy got me into it, going into studios. I was doing it at home maybe about 6 months before I started to go to yoga studios. So that's something I started to adapt for me. And I feel like that was one of the steps that I started to implement for me. And it's taken this long. I feel like, I don't know if I went on a tangent.
No, but
Billy,
if
what
you
is
take anything away from that, oh,
no, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
think if you take anything away from this episode is, I think change is constant, and sometimes change is
Mm-hmm.
necessary. And yeah, don't, like Betsy says, don't lose yourself in the process of changing. But I think you kind of have to change to adapt to what's happening in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of like the biggest change for me. I mean, I'm in my own space now, so it kind of had to be like learning to be in my own space, not being with my parents. Still learning how to be the daughter that I have been for them, but now how can I be there for myself? And not feeling guilty about not being there as I was before, and setting those boundaries and finding like that happy medium where I still feel like I'm showing up for them, but I'm also showing up for myself. So there was that big
Mm-hmm.
change for me. Um, yeah, and I don't think I lost the essence of Billy. Like, I think I'm even better now because I don't, and I don't want to say that added pressure, but when I was living with them, it was like I was there. I was able, I was just there for them. And they
Mm-hmm.
were able to just, ask of me at any time. Where now they're more understanding, and they are aware that I needed my space and that it's okay to have that space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me that's been the biggest change. And then with work, yeah, I also had to change. I had to understand that I can't fix things. Because prior to where I'm at now, I felt like I always had to, whenever I worked, there was always an end result. And I was proud of the end result. I was happy with the end result. But when you're working with people, you know, a happy end result is just them getting up and brushing their teeth. So, like, I had to change and understand that I can't fix people because people are not things. So I had to change myself and accepting that I can't change everything. And yeah, so, and you know, I think when I work with other people, I have to make other changes too based on like what their needs are. So it's not so much like I'm changing who I am, because I don't think I don't ever want to change who I am, but it's more of like I'm changing based on what's happening like in my life at the moment. Does that make sense?
So
Maybe
you're
I'm
evolving, right?
Yeah, I think that's
I
a
think
great
that's a
word.
probably better word versus changing who
Yeah.
you are. You're evolving. What about you,
Yeah.
Nathy? What do you think your evolution has been?
So I like how we're just either talking about or changing the word from reinvention to evolving. You can even calling a level up, whatever it may be for you. But as you look back at maybe the year or the month you've had, okay, you've had a shitty month, if it or even a good month, you have to reflect on the good and the positive and see what has worked for you and make those changes. Either if it's fashion, I mean, with fashion, I feel like we're all trying to stay trendy. Like, well, what's trending, right? What's trending in the fashion world? So, oh, you want to wear whatever's in. What if it? I don't even know what's in now with the clothing, because I know that there was bell bottoms are back. Tight jeans were in for a while, but now no, they're no longer in. It's like mom jeans or regular jeans.
Mom jeans.
Yeah, or regular jeans or regular fit, whatever it may be. I hope the shoulder pads don't come back though.
Me too.
I
um,
like it.
I don't know.
Next time I'm gonna wear a dress from my mom's closet. I know they have to have shoulder pads in them. I know they have to have shoulder pads in them.
But like with fashion, I feel like, yes, that you try to stay. Well, for me, I like to be like, oh, okay, that's in. I want to wear it. Not all the time, but with clothes and things like that. But with myself, I think, again, with, like Billy said, I do agree with her. Depending on your setting and where you're at, you want to be yourself, of course, but also be conscious of who is in your surroundings and want to be better for that person. I mean, I guess, it's very broad. I feel like we're getting like a really broad topic. And reinventing, I guess if I go back to reinventing myself, obviously I have changed from maybe since you girls met me, although I was never into like the sneakers or the boots. I mean, you guys remember how I would dress in high school. I was never like, oh, the Tims and the whatever was in back then. I always had like my own little fashion thing. And then obviously I went into the working world where I worked. Oh, the nails. Yes, I had really long nails. I don't have nails anymore. I haven't had long nails in like about 15 years. So that, I mean, as you learn, and I don't even know like how to explain this. As you go
evolved
by
in the
every
sense.
year, you learn something.
Yeah,
I
but you
mean,
look, you
and
changed
I've
your
learned, like,
diet.
for example, my diet, I'm vegan now. So as I've learned as the years gone, I've learned health wise, I want to become healthier. I went the vegan route. I do work out, not as much, not right now because it's winter, but that's another story. So yes, every year we might change, level up, we may evolve. And I guess it just, you have to look at it in a way. I can't even explain this. It's just very tricky. Very, very tricky for me. Let me think about it. I'm gonna get back to you girls on that one. Because
Okay, all right.
we're getting up into a broad topic, and I don't know if I should like explain it specifically for myself or just in a general sense. If
Well,
you
I think
guys,
our audience members, they're still trying to get to know us. So maybe I would say stick to being specific. And because, in this podcast, the whole point is so that these, hopefully friends of ours, meaning like people who are already our friends and these new to be friends, get to feel like they can connect with us. And by being more authentic to who we are and our journeys, it might just, girl, listen, stick to what you know, which is you. And I think that's the best way. So we'll table you for a second while you think about what you
Yes,
want to say,
please.
and then kind of we'll get back to you. Um, so wait, so did I go? I don't know. Now I lost track. And just so that our audience members know, we prepare for a lot of our topics, and some of our topics we have noticed based on our friendship, they kind of just go with the flow as far as what we're talking about, how we're feeling. So we kind of do some things ad hoc. And this one, we had some topics, but it is a little bit ad hoc because we wanted to keep it as authentic as possible. Because our episodes are literally being as authentic as we could potentially be to you all. For me, self-discovery has been one of the most amazing, saddest, craziest roller coaster. I don't know about anyone else, and I hope anyone, if this can relate to someone, it's been challenging, but it's been very rewarding because I have seen me go from a person that I personally, genuinely, I'm a nice person. Though I say that a lot of people don't think this, but I am not the most social person. Though everyone who knows me goes, I don't believe that in the least bit. But it is true, people. I literally have to prepare myself to be in social gatherings. I do come across as a social butterfly, but I have evolved into that. And part of what helped me evolve into that is my position where I work in I host conferences, so I have to be social. But I'm also a very opinionated person. I also feel like I grew up with a mom that always has something to say. And I'm not saying it in a negative way, but my mom was a very strong minded, not was, she's still alive, God. She said what she needed to say, and she had a lot of wisdom she has a lot of wisdom to share. And I think I got that from her, and just being involved and being, this like person that's always there. So I have had to learn to shut that up a little bit because sometimes I talk too much, and I needed to learn to listen. And I will tell you guys, it has been the most amazing thing where I have learned to hear more, be more present. And then once I started to do that, I started to see, oh my God, like I was this other person that just was like in people's faces. I was just all over the place. And I feel bad because I only know that. And in trying to figure out who I am now and what my place is, but trying to stay true to who I am, which is a person that is passionate about what she has to say, is where do I pick and choose, and when do I pick and choose what to say, what to do, and how to take care of certain things. That's been one of my biggest evolutions, especially in the last, I would say 5 years, mostly the last 5, 6 years. Anything for you, Billy?
I mean, we're finally here, right? It took
Yeah.
it was a long way traveled to getting into the career that I am now. And with that in itself, like I knew I wanted to work with children.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this quote in the yearbook I don't have, but my quote was, "I want to make the difference in the life of a child," and that's what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't. Nathy, kudos to you for doing that, and to all the teachers out there, because you are the second, sometimes maybe first parent of these students. So thank you for doing that and for showing up for these kids. But yeah, like I knew that that's what I wanted to do, but then it turned out that I didn't want to work with children in a school setting as a teacher, but I still wanted to work with children. So then I had to I went through years of not knowing what I wanted to do, and then trying something else and I am where I am now, and I do get to work with children, and I work with families, and I also work with adults, which I didn't realize I would enjoy so much. So I think with, evolution and changing, I think you kind of have to also give yourself the opportunity to figure out what it is that you want to do, what it is that you like. Maybe you thought that you didn't like something and it turns out that you do, or maybe you didn't think you were going to be comfortable with something and it turns out that you are. So that's where I am. In terms of like my career, I had the opportunity to discover what it is that I want to do, what I see myself doing for years to come, and what makes me happy. Yeah.
Really,
And
could
like
you?
I was also
Oh,
thinking, yeah.
oh no, I was going to ask a question about. Could you elaborate a little bit on your journey through, like, what things did you or did you not try? Because you have a very interesting journey, and if you could elaborate a little bit on that so that someone can kind of understand what that was
Do
like.
we have do we have 5 hours? No.
No, we don't. But you could give us a quick summary of like what things did
Yeah.
you try out and how did you try those things out? Like
Yeah,
you had
so
like
when
5,000 careers.
when we graduated from high school, well, I went to Washington Irving where we graduated from, because they had a teaching house, because I was like,
Mm,
this is where, so no one in my family prior to me and my older sibling had been to college. So like college was, we knew we had to go to college because that was the way, right? My parents instilled in us, like, you have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. All they knew was that in order to be successful, you have to go to college. So I knew I had to go to college. And I always thought that I wanted to be a teacher. I remember as a kid, my cousin, shout out to my cousin Maria, she would come over and we'd play school.
mm-hmm.
And then she wanted to be a lawyer, so we'd pretend play too. So all my life, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And I went to college, graduated not with a license in teaching, but I had a liberal arts degree because the school that I went to was a little complicated. And then I started to tutor, and I think I was crying along with the kid, and I was just like, oh my god. So yeah, it was hard. It was just one kid. It was just one kid, and I was just like, oh my god, this is hard. And back then, I was probably like, I don't know, in my early 20s. Back then, I wanted to have children. I had the idea of one day having a family, and I was like, how am I going to go to school and teach these kids and probably cry, and then go home and deal with my kids and probably cry some more? I was like, I don't want to live a life of crying. Like, I do enough of it already. So I was like, I can't do this with my life. I can't. But I really didn't know what else to do. So
Mm,
I was working at the pharmacy, and everybody was like, you should just be a pharmacist. You're so great at it. And I am great at the job, but getting the degree is a whole different thing. If you're in the field of science, like, awesome, because I mean, healthcare is, you're always going to have jobs, right? But it's difficult. It's not, when I was in school for becoming a teacher, there's more of writing involved. And I love writing. I love reading and I love writing. So that was easier for me. When I decided, okay, maybe I'll go to pharmacy school, there's a lot more memorization, learning and memorizing. And that was so hard for me. So hard. It was very difficult for me because the work was harder. I had to, but I was working two jobs at the moment. So I
mm.
missed a lot of gatherings. I cried a lot too. I cried a lot. Jesus. I'm crying all the time. I always have tears left. Um, but also going through that journey, I just knew it wasn't for me. Like, I could do the work, and
Mm,
I love to do the work because I deal with people. But just getting that degree, it just was not for me. So then
mm-hmm.
I pray. I'm also big on prayer, and I went to church, and that's when it was either getting into pharmacy school or becoming a para for the Department of Education. It's like an assistant teacher. So I went to church and I said, God, like, I trust you. Whatever you have planned for me, I accept, and I know that it's what's best for me. So yeah, I got into becoming a para, and I love working with children, but I loved also that I didn't have the responsibility like what Nathy has to go home, create lessons, go home, check the homework, go home, talk to the parents, talk to the administration. I didn't have to deal with any of that, but I was still able to work with children and do what I love to help them learn, to help them grow. So then I was like, okay, I want to work in a school setting, but how can I do that without being a teacher? That's when I decided to become a school counselor, because somebody did ask me, like, if you had money, what would you do? Like, if you're rich and money was not a concern. Now that I think about it, I would love to be a food critic. But second to that, or like yes, I love food. Food makes me happy. But second to that would be to work with children. So then I said, oh, would be a school counselor. So that's when I went back to school. Since I already had my bachelor's, I just had to get my master's. And before I decided to go into school counseling, it was also the question of, do you want to be a social worker or do you want to be a school counselor? And I said, well, social workers, from what I know, they just cry a lot. And it's hard. Their job is hard. It's difficult. I didn't know much about it. No one in my family is a social worker. I think prior to now, like being in the field, I don't know anyone who is a social worker. And I think that's the hardest thing, because I only know people who are factory workers. Like my mom was a factory worker. My dad was a chef. Some of my family members worked in restaurants again, cab drivers. And so and then because we were we were in school, we knew teachers. So I could really only ask information of what people did that I know of. Now you can Google things, but back then, it was just, I think when I grew up, it was like, you're a cop, you're a teacher, you're a doctor. Now there's so many different fields. There's so many different, opportunities but back then it was just, not that I was closed-minded, but I just didn't have access to all of this information. So anyway, I said, okay, school counselor or social worker. And I was like, well, I don't want to be a social worker because it looks like it's really tough, and it looks like they cry all the time. So then I went into becoming a school counselor. And when I graduated, I know that when we were in the program, a lot of my classmates were concerned because it was hard to get a job as a school counselor. And the professor kept saying, don't worry, you're going to get a job, you'll be fine. And I was like, all right, well, I'm in it already, so we got to finish, right? But it was hard for me to find a job, and I didn't find a job. And I was like, so after the first year of not finding a job and seeing that my classmates didn't find a job and how hard it was going to be, and at the school that I worked, my principal was like, I'm sorry, I would hire you, but we don't have the budget. And I kept thinking, I might hear that a lot, and I just can't wait. So that's when I decided to go back to school for mental health counseling, which is broader. And the program that I was in for school counseling, they had a program for mental health counseling, and it was going to be easy for me to get that degree because I had already been part of the school. So that's when I went back to school and I became a mental health counselor. So that's where I'm now. What I really want to do when I retire, I would love to be a marriage counselor, because I've always said, if you can help the marriage, you can help the child. We'll talk about that another time, of why I believe in that. But yeah, so that's it. Took me just trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, and not just do it because this is where I am and but because I want to do something that makes me happy. I feel like if I am happy, especially where I am now, if I am not well, if my mental is not good, I cannot be there for my clients. So I needed to find a position in my career that was going to continue to make me happy. That way I would wake up every morning and still want to do it. And that way I can be as productive as I can be for my clients. So that's my journey.
I think that's amazing.
We're here.
I know. And you did all this with multiple jobs. I want our audience, the reason why I wanted Billy to elaborate is because she's gone through so many different career paths and school while still having multiple jobs. Mind you, she doesn't have kids. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat, because as a mom, I know my path was very different. I will elaborate on mine in a bit, but I want you all to know that your journey isn't supposed to be like, I wake up, I graduate from high school, I go to college and I get a job. Like, no, it's about experiencing it and saying, I don't really like this. Let me try to adjust as best as possible, because I know it's not feasible for everyone, but trying to just wet your feet into one career, and then within a couple months, a couple years, however, maybe move if that's not fitting for you, because that's truly the most important thing to hear. So being that we put, Nathy on standby, Nathy, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready to share my journey. Billy, do you
Yay.
think that I cry? You think I cry every day too?
Oh Lord. No, Nathy, but you're so great at what you do. And I think you've done it for such a long. Actually, I don't know. You knew what you wanted to do and you went for
Yeah,
it, Nathy. You
I
knew and you did and you're doing it. So tell us
did.
like
Mm-hmm.
why? Maybe why did you decide? When did you decide you wanted to be a teacher? And
I
like
think
that you
I've
now.
always, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, always. I remember in elementary school, I was like, oh, I want to become a teacher. And I think I became a teacher because of the teachers that I had. My first grade
Mm-hmm.
teacher was so loving and very sweet. Just very warm-hearted person who I still speak to this day. And as I went off in school, I really had really great teachers, and I think you girls can say the same for high school. We had really great teachers in
Mm-hmm.
our department, at least. So the reason we all ended up going to Washington Irving is because we all wanted to be teachers, and they had this great program for us to do our internships in the daycare center that they had in the building, which we all did.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, this is great. And my goal was always to be a kindergarten teacher, because that's back then there wasn't pre-K or 3K in the public school system. So when I graduated high school, I went to Hunter College, got my degree, and then went straight into a daycare center because it was so hard. If you didn't know anyone back then to get into the Department of Education in New York City, you couldn't kind of get in. So I didn't get in. I worked in a daycare center in Queens for 5 years while I was still working on my master's. Once I graduated with my master's in early childhood education, I have a certificate from birth to second grade. I was like, I have to get into the DOE. I have to get in somehow. I don't care. And I worked so hard one summer. All I did was fax, email, and in-person delivery of my resume. And that's all I did on weekends and weekdays. That I focused. I was like, I got to get in. I'm going to get in. It's going to happen. Until I finally got a call that they said that they were going to interview me for a position for kindergarten, if I'm not mistaken. I went in. I got my interview for my kindergarten position. It was a dual language position at a public school in Manhattan. I went, they gave me the job. Finally, I'm in the DOE, but that year was tough. And that was the only year that I have cried as a teacher.
Oh.
And I think it had to do a lot with the workload. It wasn't even the children, it wasn't even the parents, maybe a little bit of administration, but just the workload that this at least my position and the teachers in that school had as a dual language teacher was overwhelming. I had to make lesson plans in two languages, English and
Oh, I think,
Spanish.
is it just
And
me?
what? And I just spent all weekend lesson planning. And I would
Mm.
cry and cry. And after a whole school year in that school, I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to do something else, possibly younger kids, because that's where I originally started in my career in the daycare center. So I started looking for another job. And that summer, I got accepted at another school for pre-K. And since I had started with my career with that age group, I was like, okay, I'm easy peasy. I can do it. I got the job. And I've been in that school for 9 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I have been a pre-K teacher for like 6 or 7 years. And now I'm currently a 3K teacher for the last 2 years. And the kids are great. The parents are great. The community is great. I haven't shed a tear in that school. And I haven't shed a tear since I became a kindergarten teacher in the other school. And obviously, I am not the same teacher I was when I started in the daycare center. I've changed. Obviously, every year you get a different group of kids. So you change with the kids, you change with the class, you change with the parents that you get every school year. But yes, I have stuck it through. I am a teacher, and I think I will retire as a teacher. But obviously, with my little side thing going on with real estate and other projects that I have going on right now.
What
But
made you pick
it's been
real
one heck of
estate?
a ride. Say that again.
What made you pick real estate?
Um, I like the fact that when we purchased our first home, just the feeling of being of home ownership. And I think Betsy, you can attest to
Mm-hmm.
that, because having your own
Mm-hmm.
home and being able to, like, oh, this is my home. I can call it my home. I'm not giving money to somebody else for rent.
Mm-hmm.
And the possibility of maybe in the future flipping or just having properties for income, for extra income. So that's why I went into real estate.
Nice. Muy bueno.
Not
Well,
not
I'll talk about my.
yeah,
Go
not
ahead.
again, not all of us, especially Billy. She had to go through hoops and loops to get to know what she wants to do now. Mine wasn't. Yes, it was straight, but I had some challenges along the way. How about you,
Mm.
Betsy?
See,
What about your journey?
oh my God, my journey has been insane. Not everybody wakes up knowing what they want to do. I had two career paths that I truly wanted to do. Mostly was in medicine. I was a fanatic, and I think I said this in our in our episode or on our episode about TV and TV shows. I loved ER. I loved ER. It was just anything medicine was something that I was always drawn to. My mom works at a dialysis center. Always been curious about medicine. I think in another life, and who's to say that I wouldn't pursue it, but I highly doubt I would pursue anything in medicine as far as like practicing medicine. I'm not going to say no, I just highly doubt it. I always wanted to pursue medicine or teaching because I would sit with my sister and teach her, do her homework with her. I have a sister who's 5 years younger than me on my mom's side. Um, I think by the time she got into second grade, I realized that I don't know if I really want to be a teacher because she'd drive me crazy. So I went into teaching to the teaching house because um, I still kind of sort of wanted to be a teacher, and there weren't really any schools that I got into that had anything in medicine, particularly. By the time I graduated high school, I think I was leaning towards like, this is not going to work for me because everything I applied for was in medicine. Um, so I started to pursue medicine. And then I said to myself, in the daycare, though it was lovely, I truly did not want to teach children. I thought that my level of patience or lack thereof would cause me to go to jail one day. So I said, I don't think I should teach children. And then what solidified that for me, though I had already changed my major, was having children. I was like, oh, I definitely can't do teaching kids all day, come home to a child. Oh, no way. I'm happy I chose what I chose. So by the time I graduated, I had gone into the nursing program at Staten Island University, but I was very pregnant by the time school was started. So I graduated pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I went to open house. I was literally gonna go. I was like, I'm gonna make it from Washington Heights all the way to Staten Island. I couldn't afford to live on campus, and I couldn't afford to have an apartment. So I told myself I was gonna do the commute. So at my 5, 6 months pregnant belly, I did open house. I went, and I actually fell asleep so bad that I went into the Bronx on my way home. My commute was like 2.5 hours, and I was already a high risk pregnancy. So I chose to not pursue nursing at Staten Island University and take a gap year. I then applied, I think the following year. Yeah, because Jaleese was a few months old when I got into Hostos and I started their nursing program. And I would take Jay with me in my little pouch full of stuff and to go to classes. And then I didn't pursue nursing because when I got to the point where the program said that I had to quit my job to do the nursing hours, I couldn't financially afford to not have income and raise a child. I was in a relationship that I couldn't depend on this person to financially take care of us, or to make sure that things would get taken care of as I needed. So I chose to switch into business management and ended up getting a job where the building that I currently work for, SUNY College of Optometry. And I was there doing business, like in the finance department. And I said, I like the business aspect of things. Lo and behold, I am in healthcare, but I'm just not practicing. Have I finished my degree? No, I'm pretty close to finishing it. I've had to stop and start. I prioritize my children and the time that I have with my children. I used to work very odd hours, and I noticed that with my oldest daughter working and going to school, I was barely in her life, at least for her first 4 or 5 years. And by the time I had my second child, I said to myself, I have to be more present for them, and I'm going to do what I need to do with what I can. Not having a degree, but I will take classes here and there. So I'm about maybe halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway done. I'm hoping for 2024 to start school back up so I can finish and get my degree. And I will be staying in healthcare, but more like healthcare management operations and stuff like that, or planning conferences, which is a thing I kind of always like. I like the event planning. I just didn't like to do like your typical event planning where it's like weddings and bridezillas and people's parties who they tell you they want to do these great big parties and have no money and then treat you like crap. But I do like to organize events and trips and stuff like that. So I'm now a, director of continuing optometric education courses, which has recently just happened as my recent promotion. So yeah, that's my journey. I think, what I gather from our journeys, and I want our audience members to gather actually, is that no path is like, there's no one straight path for anyone. Your life situation helps determine, or hurts to determine, what kind of, not hurts, it determines how you're going to steer towards it. It determines how you use your life around you, your circumstances, and you learn from it and you move forward through it and you adapt. Some people have had 4 or 5 different career paths. You evolve in life. I don't think humans are meant to stay stagnant. I think when you become stagnant in your career, in your home, in yourself, that is what starts to create depression. It starts to create sadness. This is part of evolution. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I could say about our journeys. Any takeaways that you ladies have regarding our life evolution?
I feel the same way, Betsy. There's no right way. There's not a right formula for the journey or the path that you're going to take. Just take it day by day, do what you love, enjoy what you're doing, and just be happy, just be happy with what you're doing. Billy's journey was different than Betsy's and I, and there's just no right way to it. And right, Billy?
Yes, there is no right way. And also be kind to yourself. Like, there were times when I was like, damn, like, I'm almost 40 and I'm just dipping my toes into this pool, but it's okay because some people journey is straight. Some people there's bumps on the road. Some people there's those potholes and bumps and everything. You know what I mean? So yeah, your journey is your own. Don't look at the next person and compare yourself, because comparison is something of, I don't know, whatever. I gotta get these phrases right because but anyway, yes, the biggest thing that I would say is just do not compare yourself to someone that is your age. because everyone's journey is different. And
100%.
sometimes what we see is not always the reality of things. So definitely don't compare yourself to anyone else. Understand that your journey is your own. And as long as you're happy, that's really all that matters, because we only live once.
You
You're
only
never
live
too
once.
old to start something new either.
Yeah.
'Cause
In my in at SUNY College, we're for those of you that don't know, we are a college, so it's a postgraduate program for people who are going to become eye doctors. And I hate to use that term, but that's the best way. Optometrist is the right term. In the last 3 years, I have seen, not that we haven't had older students. Usually students are between 23 to like in the younger 20s, like within the 1 to 2 years of graduating undergrad. In the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I have seen an uptake of like 5 or 6 newer students that are in the late 30s, late 40s. And the most recent grad, I think he was like 45. And that to me was like, and he actually started as one of our techs. So to that I say, um, do not sit there like Billy just said and compare yourself. It's like driving your car. So this is an example I give my kids. My life is my car. I can either choose to drive the car myself or have someone else drive the car for me, which is someone telling me what to do, how to do it. Or if I am driving the car, I can choose to kind of go, oh my God, let me look to the side. Let me see what so and so to the left has and to the right. And I'm going to go into accident. And that's where you're going to have problems. You have to drive your car, make the decisions on your car. Your car is your life and how that journey takes. You can choose whether to take the scenic route, and that's totally fine. I think as long as you're not harming yourself and you're not, depriving for yourself of things that you need, do that. If you want to take the route that is going to get you there the fastest, understand that you're going to get there so fast that you're going to miss out on opportunities. But be open to exploration, be open to knowing that it's life. You're supposed to live it, not succeed at, not finish it, not to get to the finish line right away. It's not a race, it's a journey. um a quick example of my two oldest kids. My stepson struggled a lot with knowing what he wanted to do when he graduated high school. They both graduated at the same time. um he was very kind of beating himself up because he didn't know what he wanted to do, while his friends and his sister knew what they wanted to do. And I said to him, I said, you kind of have an advantage. It does feel like a disadvantage, but you have an advantage because you get to figure out and explore what you like and what you don't like. The disadvantage in this point is that you're going to be frustrated that you don't know what you want. And what I tell people is, if you don't know what you want, it's because you haven't tried things enough. You can't say, I don't know this unless you've tried it. You can't say, well, I don't like it if you haven't tried it. You have to explore. And the interesting thing is that so my daughter, she wanted to be a teacher. She had been wanting to be a teacher for special needs kids for as long as I can remember. COVID happened. And within the year after COVID, she started to bake a lot and she started to cook a lot. And I was like, Jay, do you think teaching is what you want? She went through her first year and a half of taking audiology and all those classes. And she's like, I hate this. I love kids and I want to work with kids, but I hate these classes. I can't get it. I can't pass. And it's a very competitive career path. But you saw when she would cook and she'd bake this happiness. And I said, Jay, I think you're following the wrong path. What do you think you want to do? And so she started exploring, and now she's going to start culinary school in April. Who's to say she can become the best chef ever, but she doesn't have to stay a chef for the rest of her life. She can have multiple career paths. And now my stepson has figured out what he wants to do in his degree, which is science. And he's probably going to hate me for this, but it's in physics, engineering. And I just say he's just going to become one of the big band theories. And it's because I don't know too much about science stuff that he does. It's high level science stuff that I have no idea about. So I'm sorry for going off on this tangent, but what I want to tell you is that give you another example of even younger kids that are going through this journey, and life is a journey. explore it. You know, we would love to hear from you all what your journeys have been. Feel free to email us. Feel free to comment or DM us. Ladies, do you know the email off the top of your head? Because I literally just had a brain burp and don't know it.
I'm sure that our producer could tell us.
Yeah,
What is our
can you please?
email?
We've never
As we
actually.
wait, I just
Go ahead,
wanted to
Billy.
share. The quote was, Lord, I forgot again. Hold on. What was the word?
Yeah, let's just go.
Comparison. No, comparison is the thief of joy. I love that. Comparison
Say
is
it
the
one more
thief.
time.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm.
You get it? All right.
Yes,
Now,
comparison is
moving
a thief
on.
of joy. I love that. Did the email come in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or my shirt says, "Be your best self."
I love this shirt. When Nathy
Oh,
came on
yeah.
earlier, I was like, what does
I
it
didn't. I
say?
swear I didn't wear it on purpose. It just happened.
Yay. I love it. I don't have anything on my shirt.
Yeah.
No.
I might have a stain
All
on
right.
my top. Anyway, guys.
All right. So the email that we'd love for you to comment on or send us your thoughts is aeallthings@gmail.com. So A like Apple, E like Eric, all things, the word. And you can also see us on Spotify. So it's not just YouTube. There's actually on Spotify, you can see the videos there as well. And obviously YouTube, TikTok, and all of our social media. We love you guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Check us out next time because I am gonna find something with the pads on the shoulders. Anyway.
All right.
Love you.
Love you
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye.